some users use coreboot on their private laptops to make it more secure. And there's a company, a German hardware vendor called Siemens, and small German hardware vendor. And Siemens is actually using coreboot in the hardware they are shipping. So if you don't know German companies, that's really a big deal, because you're usually not up for a change. So, a good round of applause for Werner Zeh.
Yeah, hi everybody. So, I was asked now and then, hey, you have brought in these new member into the tree, where can I buy it so I can test it? Yeah, it's kind of special thing here, because it's not what you are actually used to. It's not a standard PC, it's not a laptop, it's nothing that is used on a commercial part side. So I decided to give this talk to let all you know what actually is behind that, so what kind of target we are trying to reach with that particular devices. I'll go over that. I've prepared a small demo, so it's always good to have something to touch as far as I know. And I've prepared something so we can see it live running in simulation mode, but we can get to that. Okay, I will talk about these topics. So what is the CNC machine exactly? Because there are many people who actually knows what that is, but I can guess maybe that there is someone who does not really know what that is. So we will clarify that point. We will talk about the SINUMERIK itself. So what is the SINUMERIK? How does it fit in the CNC machine? We'll talk about booting a SINUMERIK before the coreboot times, and what actually happened as we have switched to coreboot, or why didn't we have switched to coreboot. Yeah, then one of the greater tasks was to make coreboot acceptable at Siemens at all, so it was just it was a nightmare actually. So I will talk about that. We can have a slight look to the future of coreboot at Siemens. And sure, we are actually using it, we rely on it, and we'll see that aspect too. So, it's not a big deal. Werner Zeh is my name. On IRC, I'm usually used to be called Norwich. I'm working for 10 years now for Siemens, of which I'm 6 years now dealing with firmware, and did 4 years of real hardware design, because I'm a hardware guy actually. I've designed hardware and I love that hardware, I will never give it up. Yeah, what is the CNC exactly? So, everybody of you can imagine that the engine of a car is a quite complex piece of hardware beside the software parts. That can be looked like that, and you see that there are many complex metal parts on it. And all of these metal parts need to be manufactured. They need to be manufactured fast, they need to be manufactured in a high quality, because that's the lifetime of your machine usually. And they need to be manufactured in a high quantity, because that's a million parts market. So the car market is huge. And you need machines for that, because obviously nobody wants to do that by hand anymore, and you need to do that 24/7. So these machines can look like this one. It's not exclusive, but this is just an example of it. These machines vary really huge. So it really depends on the application you have to do with them. It depends on the size of the workpiece you have to. It depends on the machine type itself. How many axes do you have? What actually do you want to do with that machine? Which job you want to perform with that? And what are the features of that machine? So they vary really well. To just define this term axis, this is which is common in all the CNC segment. You're talking always about axis. and actually an axis is the possible moving direction which is independent to everything else. So you can have these so you can imagine that this part can go up and down. So this is the z-axis. You can imagine that this one here can rotate, which would be the b-axis. You can swing that one over there. You can move that in x and y directions. And so every single axis has a special moving direction which is independent of the others. And there can be even more axes inside a machine which does not directly have to do something with the real manufacturing of the piece, but it maybe just deals with the tool exchanger. Because in a machine you don't have to use only one tool all the time. You have special tools for special tasks you have. So I was on the EMO fair in September on Hanover, and they had this huge machine, and the tool exchanger was a circle of 3 meters diameter. And it had 76 tools around the circle, and they can just switch in the right tool they need. So you have to drill a hole, okay, get the driller, do it. You have to smooth the surface, get the right tool, do it. So this is actually what is very important in the machine market, because most of the customers want to run the machine as automated as possible. So they don't want to have human beings to do the tool exchanges. They even don't want to load and unload the machine by hand. So they are pallets. You can just throw in a bunch of materials you want to be processed and gather them later when they are ready. So they are really living from this high automation grade inside the machine itself. So this is where a huge amount of access comes in. You have to move the parts in and out, you have to sort them out and stuff like that. So that's actually what access are. Yeah, let's see one of these machines in action. So this is a crankcase of a car engine, which is constructed in one of these machines. I hope that runs. Pray me. So you can get an impression of the movings which are done inside. So that's actually what can happen in there. It depends on the part itself, but it's actually a complex set of movements in a different direction with different axes, with predefined speeds, with predefined torques and stuff like that. So you need to be you need to control that very well in order to get the right worksheet quality after that process. So the goal would be never touch this part again, so that's ready for production now. You don't have to do anything additional on that. And if you can achieve that, you in turn save production time, because you don't need a special additional production cycle for it. So everything's just looking at doing the quality as high as possible, so that the overall production time for the complete part is as less as possible. Okay, that's the goal. Okay, so we obviously need something smart around that, because we need to control a lot of things inside. We need at least one motor which is capable of driving this particular axis in all the direction it needs. We need an encoder on that motor to get the exact position of that axis, because that's actually vital for the control loop. You need to know where the axis is and where you have to go to. Sure, you need a torque, you need a power inverter which is able to control the torque and the speed of the motor, so that you exactly know when it will be where. You need a control unit which is able of coordinating all that movements across several axes. So if you need to produce a circle, then you need to move at least 2 axes in the right composition. On the sphere, it's more complicated. Now you have 3 axes and stuff like that. And you use a kind of a user interface, because at the end of the day, somebody has to operate the machine. Somebody has to run it. Somebody has to attach the programs and run them and stuff like that. And so what we actually have is the numerical control unit, it's the NCU. This piece of hardware is responsible for all these axes, or the controlling of the axis. So it's actually the hard working part, who usually nobody sees. It's buried down somewhere in the machine, nobody has a look at it. It's deep inside it. And you have the numerical operator panel. The numeric operator panel is the HMI part where the operator stands in front of and operates the machine, and you have the machine control panel, which provides you special keys for the customer for the machine that actually works with their devices. Okay, so this is a kind of a topology of the electrical electrical inner life of a sample machine. So what you actually have over there, this slide, this is the most powerful one. It's a 50 millimeter wide component, which actually is the MCU itself. So this is the part where the x86 takes the power and produces all these computations over several axes in a really real-time environment. You have the power inverters right next to it, which are dealing with the motors itself, which are over there, which keeps track of the current in the motors, which keeps track of the position and stuff like that. You have a power supply. Because we are here in an industrial environment, we usually use 24 volts DC supplies. So all of our machines are supplied with a 24 volts DC. You can extend it to even other axes, so you can extend that to, I don't know, 60 axes, something like that, controlled by one NCU. So that's the lower level. On the upper level, you have the control panels. This is where the operator stands in front from and operates the panel, the machine. You have a handheld. So this is a small device which you can take with you to the machine. Just imagine the machine can be as big as 10 meters or something like that for huge machines. So if you're currently in the task of setting up this machine as your machine manufacturer, you need to set it up. So you need to adjust things on that machine. So it's better to you if you're just in front of the part that's currently moving while you move it. So we can just use this handheld, go over to that part which actually is interesting, and observe the right moving directions. And you can have here, it's PLC is a logic controller for general purposes. So you can use different IOs to control other stuff of the machine, maybe the cooling pumps and stuff like that. So that's actually what it looks like. For those who are interested, here's a link. That's a publicly available link. You can go to that link and you will get a bunch of product photos so that you can see how actually all the components look like. Because I can't bring all of them with me today. It's a pity, I know. So you can have a look. If you're interested, you can find every product we have on that website. Okay, so we have learned that the SINUMERIK itself it's a complete solution. It's not just a component, it's a complete solution for a numerical machine. It deals with everything that needs to be controlled in turn to get the end result of your workpiece. As we are talking about different machine types, you can imagine that there are demands on the performance. So if you have a small machine down there in the garage, which only one person operates, then you have a small demand on performances because you only have, I don't know, 5 axes, something like that. You usually don't want to have these high-level component that controls it. So we have split up the market into different segments and provide for every of these markets specialized solution. So that is actually what is meant by it's scalable. You can decide what kind of machine you have, and you can choose the right control unit which solves your needs, what you have on that machine. Obviously, we are moving masses, so we are rotating at high speeds. We have high-speed cutting machines where the tool rotates with 38,000 rotations per minute. And that's not a good idea to introduce delays into control loops. I know I'm familiar with that, so if you are too late, you will see that on the surface. Because obviously your axis is not there where it should be to get a smooth surface. Okay? And this is the reason why delays is, it's a bad idea. And actually Intel introduces more and more of them in their recent hardware, so we have to have a look at it. The hardware of such a numerical control unit is mostly fixed. There is only a limited space for hardware extensions. It's not that on software side, but for hardware it's actually an embedded system. You have it as you need it. You can only attach known extension interfaces to it, and that's it. So it's not like a PC where you just hook up a PCI card. It's not done here, so it's a complete embedded system. We use a self-tailored Linux, which runs on that unit with self-designed hard real-time extensions for that kernel. Obviously we use x86 CPUs for the computing power. This is the only thing we need from them, it's the computing power itself. The I/O performance is just poor, but we need the computing power. So, what have we done before? Before we just bought a reference implementation, which was in the old BIOS former days. It has switched to UEFI once UEFI was ready. And then we need to modify it. As you have seen already, this is a customized mainboard. It's not a standard PC mainboard. So you have to modify a lot in the BIOS to make things happen really well. So back in the days, SMM run was a nice point. So you have to make sure that SMM is not active. Because if kernel currently computes a control loop cycle and somebody decides that SMM needs to take action and do something, then you probably will be late. And the problem is that your kernel isn't aware of that. So from the point of view of the kernel, everything is fine. But the axis has moved further than you have expected. So that's a problem. So we have to modify that reference BIOS implementation. We have to treat cold versus warm boot. We have to do the DRAM stuff, which is special on our boards. We have to cut down the execution speed of BIOS as far as possible, because actually you want to turn off your machine and use it as soon as possible. Otherwise, you wouldn't have turned it on. So the bring up time should be as less as possible. We had that, for example, in the last Ivy Bridge design, which was UEFI based. We had a pure UEFI operating time. So start on the power, And until the hardware is loaded, we had around about 9 seconds of operation in between. And what I did, so I started with Ivy Bridge, we'll come in a minute. I just switched to coreboot on that particular machine without anything special. I have reduced it from these 9 seconds to around about 3.5 or something like that. Without doing anything, there was room for more. But just, this is the basic setup we are talking about. Yeah, we have to turn off the setup utility. That's a nice story, because as we have this closed machine, it's closed hardware, nobody changes anything on it, just use it as it is. You have to make sure that the customer won't modify anything, because you have tested this setup. You have promised the customer that this will work, and if the customer comes in and changes, I don't know, anything in the setup, that's maybe not a good idea. So, turn it off. Don't let the customer ever get in there. And the sad thing about this, do that every time again with a new platform. Because as you all know, the development is not stopping on a place, so it's just keeping forward. So if you have done this for IV, and you switch to Haswell, most likely the BIOS vendor have developed his basic implementation further, and something has changed inside. So you have again to look where you have to find these places, what you have to modify, what you have to add. Maybe interfaces have changed. You have to adopt it every time, again and again, for every single platform you use it. So your demands are the same, but the ecosystem changes, and you need to apply to it. And that's actually the weird part where I came in. So that's actually how coreboot helped us in that point. I will talk in a minute how we get there, but this is actually what we have in the end. It's open source, and therefore I just say it from my point of view, it's better in security. It has a high code quality due to the code reviews we have in the past with the UEFI stuff. I was the only guy doing the UEFI parts for our machines in Erlangen, and Mario did the same in Chemnitz. So we are actually 2 guys, that's it. And you get a bunch of source codes from the BIOS vendor, around about 500,000 of files, I don't know. And you have no way with that manpower to be precise enough within that source code. So this is where coreboot helped us with this lower amount of code. You have a better chance to get to know it better, to understand what happens there, and it's actually constantly more or less over the platforms. Sure, the chipset part changes, but the overall system, the ecosystem stays the same, and you can reuse your drivers. The execution speed is a factor, as I told you, and what we have observed on Bay Trail, we was able to go through the coreboot part, so from power on to start of payload loading in 300 milliseconds. That wasn't even thinkable on UEFI parts. So actually, from that point, the execution of the BIOS disappears. It looks like there was never a BIOS inside. It just go. We have no setup utility in coreboot, so I don't have to turn it off. The additional point is, which really helps us to speed up the startup time, is you can put your Linux kernel-wise payload in there. And we actually do that because then you are boot block, ROM stage, and that's it. Then you go to the kernel, and kernel starts operating as it should. So thanks, Patrick, for implementing that. These are a few points of how coreboot helps us in that particular field. But these are only technical aspects, and as you usually know, technical aspects are for technical guys, and the management layer has a different view on it. So they usually don't care that much about technical details. And so my goal always was to use it in a good manner. It's just not use it and don't tell anybody that you're using it, because we're just participating in it and have all these benefits, but don't telling anything. I always wanted this open community interaction, because I believe that the community does a good job on that. So my goal was to establish a process within my department where I can freely communicate with the community, where I can interact with the community, where I can contribute and stuff like that. That turns to be out a hard task within Siemens. So my first contact, I've started with the firmware part of my work life in April 2011. So I was thrown in without, that was a pity, I had no x86 experience at that point. I never wrote a single line of code for them, okay? And I just, hey, let's try. That time we had the old legacy BIOS fully written in assembler. And that was a nightmare. So you never have to deal with x86. You never have any history of x86 in your mind. You did nothing for that, and then you have to deal with x86 BIOS based on assembler. That's a real high job. So I was actually frustrating after 2 months or something like that, 3 months, because I have to implement features, I have to debug stuff with crazy ways. And this is where I started to looking for alternatives. I mean, maybe it was not a good idea to do this that fast in terms of my job reputation. But I did it, so just driven by myself, nobody forced me to do that. It just was my personal impression of that has to be done better. So I investigated a bit. This is the point where Patrick helped me a lot to step in and to get used to coreboot. And the first implementation we did was the old AMD LX800 board we had. Luckily, a control unit which was based on that CPU. So I just, so the goal was just take that one, hopefully fast, port it to a coreboot, and run the operating system on top of it, all the system complete, and have a look how deep is the impact. Underneath, and I had no clue that time how many of the functions of the firmware I use or not, or even anything. So this was just a test. Have a look what happens. And guess what? Nothing happened at all. Because the operating system was happy, the system was running quite fast, and everything was just okay. Nobody even had recognized or even something that the firmware has changed. And that was actually an interesting result, because now I can argue with the management level. There is nothing you have to be afraid of. It will work, just trust me, because this is something that they usually don't oversee. So they have, oh, you will change the system? I even have really thought about it well. Oh, well, I did. So most of the work I did was done in parallel. So as it was not an official order to myself from the management level, so I had still to do my work where I was hired for. So it took some time here and there and took some over hours and stuff like that, but until that point nobody takes me really seriously. So as far as the job has been done, nobody really cared what I do there the rest of the time, and if I'm fast enough with the real job, I can just have some spare time for my hobbies and the work. So they didn't really take me seriously, because the argument was, hey, great, you did that on what? On LX800? It's discontinued already, forget it. So we can't use that as a proof of concept, okay? Then great, if that's your argument, I'll prove you. So I took the latest design that time we had. It was based on Ivy Bridge, Core i Ivy Bridge, and luckily this was the time where Intel came with the FSP part. So Ivy Bridge was actually more or less good supported, or we had a good chance to make it running. And so I've ported it. I've ported this NCU, our high-level, high-end NCU with a Core i5 on it, with Ivy Bridge, ported it to coreboot. Again, run the firmware, adjusted a few interrupt routings and a few of ACPI stuff to make the operating system happy, and it runs again. What a surprise! So this is where I was started to be taken seriously. So they somehow, oh wow, it actually works. It's faster. And it's for free. So this is the best argument I had for the management level. Hey, you don't have to pay for it. And whoa, really? Okay, let's think about it. So we have thought about it, and we have made the decision of switching back from UEFI to coreboot in 2014. So this was just a technical-based decision. So okay, let's do it. It seems feasible. It seems doable. We have the benefits. I have convinced several people in there. Let's do it. But we are not in a small company. It's a huge one, and huge companies usually have processes and things set up, how things have to be done and stuff like that. And I knew from the beginning, if I really want to make that successful, I need to go deep into the process layer and throw an anchor in there. And after I will have my anchor in there, nobody can take me anything, anytime. I'm done with that. So the goal was to establish a process. So it was FSP based. That's one of the most important decisions we made, because the latest Intel systems were actually running in coreboot not that bad. So what I always wanted to do is to participate at the community, to contribute back, to develop on top of master. That was my claim all the time, because I've learned in the time before I have contacted with coreboot that the development moves on fast. So if you lose track, then it will be a hard thing to rebase it again on top, because everything's changing, and if you don't keep track on that in your product, you are lost in half an hour, in half a year or something like that. You can just throw it away and do it again. That actually was the biggest point I was faced at Siemens, because they told me, hey, are you sure it's a good idea to put it publicly? I mean, the competitors can see that, and we maybe have troubles with the competitors. And so I told them, hey, what kind of special know-how do we actually have in the further level? There's nothing. It has to be there because the machine won't boot, but that's nothing that our features came from. Our features came from the operating system level, from the application level. It's not the firmware underneath. We have nothing in there that's special. So don't be afraid of that. We have to perform the complete clearing process of the sources, so we have to ensure that the licenses are well set up, that we don't violate anything. We have lawyers on that. It usually takes time to get that sorted out. It took me 1 year of work, of poking around, of contacting people, of running around, of getting meetings, setting up people and contact. I went until the head of development in that complete division to get that into the process. And then we have decided that we do the decision for every new project ever again. So we decide for that project, okay, we will use coreboot on that. And what I now bring in on features into that tree, it's on me. So I have the decision. If I find it necessary to write X to a register Y, I just do it. I don't have to justify it to someone because it's needed. So I just wanted to have this level of trust. Because I'm the technical guy, you not. Just trust me, it's my decision, I need that. Okay? So this is what actually need that work to get that understanding. on every layer. Yes, and finally, 2015, my first commit as a Siemens employee with the at Siemens.com email address came in 2015, which was a trivial one, but it doesn't care. The hard part behind that was done hidden from the community deep inside Siemens. Okay? Yeah, what's the future actually of coreboot? So the Siemens MC, this is the motion control development, which deals with that kind of machines, will use coreboot on Alex on all x86 based platforms, regardless of the real purpose of that machine. If there's an x86 inside, we'll go with coreboot. That's for Siemens MC. That's where I work for. Of course, I run around inside Siemens, have contact with other divisions, which use x86 as well, and still stick with UEFI. And I try to convince as many people as possible. Just from the cause here, I want to have more experienced people within Siemens, where you can talk with them, where you can share work and stuff like that. It's always a good idea not to be alone in the world or in Siemens. So I've started to do that, to advertise coreboot, and divisions have shown interest on that, because obviously they see that we can deal with that, we can live with that. So why not? We have at least one division that is not ready yet, but they have switched to coreboot from UEFI. It was a different part of machines, different part of components, nothing with the NCU parts. It's a different market, so they have switched to coreboot as well. And so what I see, we are starting slowly, but we start to build up a small coreboot community within Siemens. It's different locations, different departments and stuff like that. So it actually starts running somehow, but it takes time, and I really hope that we will get better in the future. But I think we are on a good track. Yeah, so obviously we rely somehow at coreboot. So if coreboot dies tomorrow, we're stuck somehow. So we have to switch back to UEFI, and I have to run the new build system in UEFI. So I don't want that. So we really rely on coreboot. We have that in the SINUMERIK devices, and if other divisions will follow, we have that in the machines now. So it's a good idea to keep that alive. We, as Siemens, and I as a person, will do anything I can to take this responsibility seriously. So I will maintain my boards, I will do anything that is needed to get that healthy and running. We know that we wouldn't have these latest Intel platforms running that well without FSP. I know that nobody really loves FSP somehow. It's a block, yes. But on the other hand, we wouldn't have that level of board support now if we don't have that. So obviously FSP needs to stay there. I'm sorry for that. And yeah, as we use the IOTG platforms usually, not the PCG, so not the PC-based platforms, but the industry-based platforms, we will need support from Intel as well, because that's nothing that is, if you develop on the latest products, usually nothing works out of the box. You have to do a lot of things, and you have to do good cooperation with the partners, with Intel is, and we have these back and forth in Apollo Lake. Community, Intel, several groups and stuff like that, and that really was annoying, and I hope that this will never happen again, but we'll see. Yeah, so from the other part, I can just say that the openness of the community was great. We came in as nobody, and we just was able to establish ourselves, to learn things. We was accepted at the community. We have a great IRC channel. The communication works fine. The review process works fine. That really helps us a lot in getting in and finally switching completely from UEFI to coreboot. And I want to say thank you for that to the complete community. You did a great job on that, and I hope you'll continue working in that area. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, there are questions, obviously.
First of all, congratulations for your success. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Excuse you, private this later. But just a little question regarding this problem, which is a real problem of the solidity of the corporate project. From your management point of view, did they argue that corporate is a little project?
Yeah, actually, the most point I have to fight with is there is nobody you can beat if something went wrong. You have that with UEFI because there's a contract, okay? And you can tell them, hey guys, seriously, that just don't work. Just do the working, okay? It's not our job. It's your product. Do it. And that was the most, the hardest part, the most harder part to get around these, because the managers always want someone to beat. So if you don't provide them something, they're unhappy. And you need to convince them that if you use that, you probably will have no need to beat anybody. You can completely get rid of that. So that was actually the argument. Yes, sure, we are using it. So actually, finally we did that. It was a process which takes time and efforts, but it finally worked.
Any more questions?
Werner from Siemens.
Yeah, somehow. You always wanted to say it.
I always wanted to say
I know.
it. Thank you for this talk. This is amazing. I think it's really impressive how you moved a really big company and slow and old company around to do something incredibly innovative.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. So you said you guys have a community inside of Siemens. How big is that community?
Oh, it's actually not that big. So we have 5 Siemens workers today here. Raise your hands, guys. Don't be ashamed. So these actually are 3 departments which are here. We have a 4th department which actually will use it as well, but they are not here today. And we have, these again, 2 people. And we have a much bigger department which deals with industrial PCs, and they are not convinced yet, but I'm working on that, so if they will join, we will double the community.
And my last question is, what can we do as a community to make your life better?
Actually, it's not that bad from the community side already. So what we actually need to have, I need to have the argument that everything just runs fine. This is the only thing I have to prove that everything's running. And support is great. On IOC level, I can always contact with Patrick. And all the other no guys, Aaron do a really good job. Martin is always there. So that's crazy and really great. And we can keep that. And I think we are, from the community side, very set up very well. So if there will be anything, I will let you know.
There was a question over here.
So I didn't quite follow the last thing. Is SNM completely disabled then?
Yes, actually on all the machines we have, it is disabled. We had one case where we might have needed, again, thermal stuff, but we was able to work around it. So actually we don't rely on SNM. There is nothing in SNM which needs to be done. Yeah.
The last question from the guy in the front.
Yeah, hi, thank you for the talk. The first question, the Linux kernel, is it in the flash chip or?
It depends on the machine. So the really final kernel which do all the work is not in the flash because it's obviously too big. It won't fit in there. But what we have is a kind of a bootloader which is based on Linux kernel, which uses, this one is used on that panel here, and it's used to get the final image over Ethernet from the down level machine part, and that is a complete Linux kernel which is based on the SPI flash.
Can this be published too?
It actually is published. It actually is. It is GPL code, sure, it is published. So if you want to have the sources, just request them and you'll get them.
Okay, awesome.
There are ways.
Then two different perspectives. If coreboot wouldn't be there anymore, you still have the source code and you have the freedom to then engage.
Sure, we will.
Somebody else.
Yeah, we will. I won't go back to UEFI anymore. So if that's the only track to go up with.
And with FSP, I mean, it's great from Intel that they do the hardware support, but they could just publish the source code there too.
Yeah, but that's a long story. You all know that they will never do that. So you can bang as long as you want. It will never happen.
As you're in contact with them, it's good to put some pressure. But the last thing, what's with the demo?
Yeah, we'll start off with the question sessions. I just want to have the questions right after that. And
Okay.
Peter over there.
I think we don't have time because coffee break starts right now.
Okay. Okay, so it's always good to have something to touch. I told that already, and let me see if I can set up my camera to show you a few constructed parts. I brought them with me. Let's have a try. I hope that helps. Yes, something works. So what I have here is a box full of pieces made by our machines. This is a one-off theme. The part, I hope you can see that. This is a part which is made by a milling machine. This is a different one. I will lay them down. You can touch and have a closer look to that. So these are parts. Oh, the response time is great. Which actually is made with such a machine. This is actually, so this is the point where my English starts to become really bad. Das ist ein Schneckengetriebeantrieb. Yeah, just have a look at that. I have no clue. So, Stefan, I suppose you still have your Corvette?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a powerful engine in there?
We do.
It's turbocharged?
Is it?
I think so. So, if it's turbocharged, you will have this impeller inside. Okay, this is a turbo impeller. This is the part where actually takes the exhaust gases and starts rotating for compressing the in air. This is made out of a single piece of metal. I hope you can see it somehow. This is one of the complex parts which can be done. So Ron, you are healthy, everything's fine? You are healthy. What about your knees? Still intact or worn out somehow? Worn out. So if they are worn out, I have a solution for you. Okay? That's a knee joint. It will. Otherwise we can modify it. So this is a knee joint. which is made in that machines. So we use the machines are used in the healthcare market very well for making these prostheses. If you maybe have issues with your shoulder joint, now that's a solution for you. Okay, it will be implanted and removed your old shitty one, which is worn out. So that's how it looks like. You have these, it's hard to see, these spikes over there. This is where the muscle actually will grow on and take the force. So everybody's aware of a Raspberry Pi. That's the case for it. With cooling domes, you can just put it in there and you're done. Yeah, that's a chess game. It was done just for playing. You can have a look afterwards. Warm gear, okay. Something like that can be made as well. That's a single piece of metal as it enters the machine and it comes out like a plane.
I'm sorry, I really have to break it.
Yeah.
I have to break you off because
I turned it on, it's okay.
we already overshot by 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
It's a really interesting topic, so I guess you're okay with it. Thank you, Werner. You're a big round of applause for Werner Zeh. So we'll now have a 30-minute coffee break and we'll see